This is your Joy News channel. In a little while, we will be crossing over to the University of Ghana, where the Alliance for Women in Media Africa will be launching the maiden report on the status of women in the Ghanaian media. Earlier today, we spoke to convener of the Alliance for Women in Media Africa, Shamima Muslim, and she gave us a sneak peek into what to expect in today's report.
And we don't turn the spotlight onto ourselves. So this is the first of its kind that we're doing a baseline study to find out a number of things about women who work in the media. Now, the reason why this is important is that there is a general poverty of data, and there is a gap in in data covering most essential parts of our society. The media is a critical component of our society, you would agree with me. And if we don't understand who is in the media, who is telling stories in the media, the stories that we tell, the images that we use, the voices that we use might not be reflective of the complex diversity of our society. And so it became really important very soon, very early on in the life of the Alliance, to find ways of conducting this research. And we are really happy that at least finally we have a certain source document, baseline information that will help us understand who is in our media. How old are they? What are their challenges? What are their perceptions about their pay, their work? Is there discrimination in our newsrooms? Is there gender harassment, for instance, in our newsrooms? Are women generally safe online or not? So we sought to ask a number of these questions, and it makes an exciting finding. There is underrepresentation of women in the media and across different parts of the media strata. They also found generally that men often earn more than their female counterparts. And you just need to do a cursory scan of our media landscape to come to similar agreements. Because if you take primetime programming, the face of most primetime programs is masculine. And it also would relate to the remuneration thereof. So it is important to know why. For example, when we asked about the career, the qualification of many women, we found out that very few women have advanced degrees like master's and or PhD. And to the extent that we are not adding capacity, we might not then be able to take up extra or additional duties that is required at the management and leadership levels in our newsroom. What is rather stark is the almost or near absence of women at top management, leadership, and ownership levels. Now, we were told, if you take a look at this report that I have, it's African Media Barometer report. It's a first homegrown analysis of the media landscape in Africa. When they came to Ghana, they asked a number of questions. One of the questions was, is media able to fairly represent the voices of society and its minorities in its ethnic, linguistic, and religious diversity? And the answer was no. Now,
so you just heard the convener of the Alliance for Women in Media Africa, Shamima Muslim there. She spoke to us earlier today. And one of the things that the report looks at is the representation of women in the media, especially at the top management level. So in a few minutes, we'll be crossing over to the University of Ghana when the program gets underway. So we're taking a short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with a live update. This is your election headquarters, Joy News channel. And as I indicated earlier, we will be crossing over to the University of Ghana, where the Alliance for Women in Media Africa is launching its maiden report on the status of women in the Ghanaian media. Let's cross over to the University of Ghana.
I was preparing to come here today. 3 questions just kept bubbling my mind. One, is it that the media is just too unfavorable for the progress of women in media? Or two, are the women in media themselves reflecting substance, or our substance is just ignored? Or three, is the media in Ghana just a boys' club? I'll leave that to you to answer. Invited guests, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency, the Minister for Information joining us virtually. Also, we have the ambassador, the US ambassador also joining us virtually, and the rest of you also joining us via Zoom. We are live on JoyNews TV. We're also live on JoyNews Facebook Live as well. I'm Selikem Apolacha Palu, a woman in the media in Ghana. Good afternoon to you, my sisters in the media. Good afternoon to you, stakeholders who are supporting this cause, and of course, the men in the media. Today is a big day for all of us to take a look at how we can both collaborate to make our work as development agents effective. I'd like to invite a lady who called me a couple of years ago and said to me, Selikem, I think I want to start a platform that will bring all women in the media together, and I need your support. And I said, certainly you have my support all the way through and through. She's the visionary for the Alliance for Women in Media, and of course, congratulations to her. She managed to pull all of us together on one platform. I'll invite her to give us the official opening, and I'm talking about the convener for the Alliance for Women in Media, Shamima Muslim. Let's put our hands together for her.
Good afternoon once again.
Do I need a mic?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. It's a very good day. It is the day that the Lord has made, and we will be glad and rejoice in it. Let me also add the Islamic salutation of peace. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Her Excellency, the Ambassador of the United States in Ghana, Ms. Stephanie S. Sullivan, the Honorable Minister of Information, Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah, members of the diplomatic and UN missions who are joining us via Zoom and other streaming platforms, Professor Akosua Dakwa, our keynote speaker, Professor Audrey Gadeko, our patron, our special invited guest, the NMC Media Foundation for West Africa, Ghana Journalists Association, my colleagues in the media fraternity, ladies and gentlemen, I am most honored to stand before you to share the welcome remarks on this August day. Today is a celebration of many kinds. Today, we celebrate the meaningful partnerships and collaborations that has birthed this report. We celebrate teamwork. We celebrate the abiding African value of Ubuntu. I am because you are, because we are. Today, we celebrate our veteran women in media, the legacy, public media, the private media, and new media, those still alive and those who have sojourned to the other side. Most recently being one of my mentors, Dr. Doris Yadate. May she rest in peace with the others, and their memories and work live on. On their shoulders, the new generation of women in media stand, navigating our own path in a new era, new opportunities, but eerily similar, the stories, the challenges, the exploits, and the victories. Today, we cannot mention all their names, but at another time, we will say their names. Their stories will be celebrated. Today we celebrate also our male allies who continue and have identified, trained, nurtured, and encouraged. This is one of the challenges with this Max thing. but we shall survive. Who continue to identify, encourage, train, and give women opportunities, women who at times are unaware of their own abilities to thrive, to succeed, and indeed to grow within the media space. Why this report, you would ask? The status of women in the Ghanaian Media Report 2020 is a groundbreaking work that seeks to provide vital data and evidence to aid advocacy towards greater representation and participation of women in our media industry. Like many sectors, there is a general data poverty, even more so in disaggregated forms that highlight nuances. Action, they say, changes things, but to change systems rooted in systemic inequities require painstaking mobilization of those worst affected, those who benefit from the status quo, and those who are just apathetic. This is not an easy task to achieve. Therefore, a fair dose of sentiment and science is needed to drive the change we want. In Ghana and across the rest of the world, women are generally underrepresented in the news media. Our histories, our cultures, economies, and politics have left us with an unbalanced world and an unbalanced newsroom. Media women know what we face on a daily basis as we navigate entrenched systems to assert our rights and agency. We know it, we feel it, and we talk about it. Now we have a report aggregating our lived experiences and aspirations because we too matter. The Alliance for Women in Media Africa is thus privileged to have led this process of conducting this survey in collaboration with the University of Ghana School of Information and Communication Studies and with the generous support of the U.S. Embassy in Ghana. It is our hope that this report will provide the baseline evidence to begin tracking progress women are making in our news media and to engage various stakeholders, government, media owners, and managers, editors, regulatory agencies. The issues of gender-based harassment, fair remuneration, career progression, work-life balance issues that this report covers provide critical entry points for debate and policy influence. 52% of those who registered to vote in the upcoming December elections are women. Our newsrooms must be reflective of this diversity, and women must be at the heart of telling diverse and inclusive stories. Women in media must be willing and must be supported. I thank you all for your support and for your presence as we make this history together. Do enjoy the rest of the program. Thank you.
Thank you. The complications that COVID-19 brings to our lives, isn't it? Thank you so much, Shamima, for that statement. We'll now hear from a woman who's more like a mother to us in the media, more like a mother to so many of us in the media, veteran journalist herself, taught many, mentored many from afar and near, and even me from afar in so many ways, but she doesn't know. She's the Dean of the School of Information and Communication Studies here at the University of Ghana. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome with a round of applause, Professor Audrey Gadjeti.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to stand on Shamima's protocol, and so all protocol observed. Oh, sorry. Oh, there you go. Sorry. Good afternoon to all of you. I want to stand on Shamima's protocol, so all protocol observed. And I want to warmly welcome you to this face-to-face and at the same time virtual launch of the Status of Women in Ghanaian Media report. As a patron for Alliance for Women in the Media and also Dean of the School of Information and Communication Studies here at the university, it gives me great pleasure to see you all here to support the launch. Ladies and gentlemen, it made perfect sense to me for the school to collaborate with AWMA to conduct this very important and I would say long overdue research, which is aimed at discovering how women in the media in Ghana are faring. This is because as academics, quite aside from teaching, we're expected to do both research and extension activities, and this falls within that domain. Besides, at the Department of Communication Studies in particular, we pride ourselves on our gender sensitiveness, and we teach an elective course on gender and communication. So not only does such research contribute to knowledge for academic purposes and helps us in our teaching, but perhaps more importantly, it helps in addressing systemic imbalances in the media by providing concrete and actionable evidence that can be used to drive gender advocacy within the media industry in general, and in particular within our newsrooms. Other speakers will be giving you the juicy contents of the report, so I will not preempt them. But I just want to press home the point that we need to constantly keep our eyes on the ball and from time to time check to see whether or not collectively women in the media are making progress. Why? Because it's easy to assume progress just by focusing on a few visible and successful women in the media. But we have to ask, do they represent the whole? I'm not sure. Maybe the report will give us a better sense. But I think we need to keep on asking the relevant questions. What agency do women have within the media industry? What beats do they cover? And how do those beats contribute to their growth as news professionals? What are the skill sets and their chances of progression in their journalistic careers? What are the legal structures and institutional policies that support women's empowerment in the field of journalism? What are the cultures that mitigate against women in the newsroom? These, ladies and gentlemen, are some of the questions that the report seeks to answer. But I won't give the game away by providing the answers to these questions. However, before I take my seat, I'd like to say that no matter the level of progress or stagnation revealed in the report, we must remain optimistic, bearing in mind that it takes decades upon decades to achieve the fruits of advocacy. And therefore, collectively, with our male allies, we must continue to press for equality and improve conditions, not only for women in the media, but indeed for women in other fields in our country. So, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your attention, and let's have a great program. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you very much, Prof. Let's put our hands together once again to appreciate her. Indeed, she says we must do this in collaboration with our male allies. Very important. I'll invite forward a man who has been very instrumental in many conversations around the media, improving the work of the media, not just in Ghana and in West Africa, and in Africa in particular. He is the Executive Director of the Media Foundation for West Africa. Let's welcome Mr. Suleimana Brahima.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. As Professor Gajopo did, my professor, I must say, I would also want to stand on earlier protocols to say all protocols observed. About 3 years ago, I had a brief meeting with Shamima, and at the time, the whole concept of AWMA was being conceptualized. And when she briefed me about the thought and the ideas, I certainly knew that this was something that was great and something that was to really execute an important task of promoting the rights, well-being, capacity of women in the media in Africa, which is something that is often either ignored or disregarded. So I should say congratulations for coming this far, and particularly for doing what I think has been absent for quite too long in terms of having concrete and accurate data on issues affecting women in the media. Not too long ago, I think just about 3 months ago, we had another conversation with AWMA about doing something that is quite close to this, but which I believe would end up being complementary to what is being done, in terms of having a disaggregated data of women journalists, and not just journalists, but also women who are very active online and can support activism within the online space. And I am happy to say that we have so far received that report from AWMA, and it's quite great. We are doing the same thing in Liberia, and we're doing the same thing in Sierra Leone. And I believe that going forward, we would be able to do the same thing in many of these other countries that, we know that women's rights, particularly in the media, remains a challenge. When Shamima was speaking, she did mention that over 50% of those who have registered to vote in this year's elections, specifically 52%, are women. But we keep hearing on the campaign platforms, candidates promising that we would make sure that we allocate 30% of all appointments to women. And that's even a promise. And that should tell us where we are in terms of the gender balance and the empowerment of women. Now, going forward, we do also have some meager resources that, of course, we've allocated towards empowering women in the media. And I believe that may provide an opportunity for us to collaborate with AWMA in order to take forward some of the issues that will be raised or the concerns that will be highlighted from this report, so that at the end of the day, it wouldn't just be a very fine report highlighting the critical issues affecting all of us, but something that we can take forward. And on that note, I would want to express sincere gratitude to the Embassy of the United States in Ghana for the continued support that they've offered in towards promoting media freedom of expression, sometimes not just here in Ghana, but as they've done over the years to support organizations such as the Media Foundation to convene regional meetings, WAMECA, which they've done over the last 3 years. So Naomi and colleagues from the embassy, we are sincerely grateful for that. And I thank you very much, and I wish all of us fruitful deliberation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sullivan Abrahima. Let's put our hands together once again for him. We're now going to have our special guest of honor join us via Zoom. She was a Peace Corps volunteer and was acting Deputy Assistant Secretary at the U.S. Department. She is currently the U.S. Ambassador to Ghana. Madame Stephanie S. Sullivan will join us, I'm just hearing later. For now, let me invite one of the men who has been very critical in many of our conversations around women in media over the years, and in AWMA's engagements as well. He is the Executive Secretary for the National Media Commission, Mr. George Sapon. Let's put our hands together for him.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Selassie. Please, the mic live. Okay, thank you very much. So let me also follow the same protocol already established and to thank AWMA for this invitation. But for me, if there is anything that stands as a metaphor for our engagement today, it is the image of our colleague carrying the baby with her camera. And I think that it represents the reality of what we are talking about today. So when Professor Gadepo advises us to keep our eyes on the ball, that is the ball that, in my view, we need to keep our eyes on. The reality of the complexity of women's lives generally, and particularly in that of the media, and how that affects the question of equality, diversity, growth, and the power relations in the industry. And when we talk about women in the media, perhaps the other thing that we need to keep our eyes on is that media is the biggest legitimator for public discourse. So when you are absent from the media, the likelihood that visibility on all the things that matter to you would be dim is very high. And so the effect of the peculiar challenges that women face as professionals in the media have ripple effects on media salience, on issues about women and the things that matter to them. Prof. Gadepo led us at the Media Commission to do a major monitoring study which included assessment of media coverage of women in politics. And one of the things that showed very clearly is how limited cover women, but also more interestingly is that in media houses where you had women in fairly senior positions, there was a greater likelihood that there will be greater visibility for women's issues and women candidates in elections. So when we talk about these issues, it is not only about women in the media specifically, but how the media also generally then affects everything that we do within that society. And that is why I'm particularly excited that we have data that would help all of us to reflect on the issues that are important to us. The data by itself may not offer the answers that we are looking for, but it has a way of focusing the conversation towards the reality that confronts us in a more stark way than otherwise would be. So I want to thank all of you for including us in this program, and I want to assure you that whatever we learn from here will be carried to the National Media Commission, and it would certainly influence policy decisions that are within the authority of the Commission. And we hope that this is not the last time that all of us are meeting over this very important thing, and they will carry the conversation on from here. So I want to thank all of you for this opportunity. Shamima and Co, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let's do it once again for him. We do now have our special guest of honor on Zoom. And she was a Peace Corps volunteer in several parts of Africa, Mali, Liberia, and other countries within the sub-region. She was also acting Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary of the U.S. Department and is currently the U.S. Ambassador of Ghana. Madame Stephanie Sullivan joins us via Zoom. Right, and so you know how it is with technology. I will be buying some time while Madame Sullivan joins us. Madame Sullivan, if you can unmute your mic, we can hear you. unmute your microphone from your end. So shortly we'll have Madam Sullivan joining us via Zoom to give us her remarks on this very important subject. We are live on JoyNews TV, and we are also live on Facebook Live on JoyNews. Madam Sullivan, if you can unmute your microphone. We cannot get your sound, so you probably would want to check your microphone and unmute. Then we'll be able to hear you. Right, so our host has to do the unmuting. Our team who is on this, our technical team, we can just unmute. Right, so we're not sure who is not unmuting, it appears. But we'll get it very soon. And then we can hear from Madam Sullivan, because her contribution to this, as is the contribution of the U.S. Embassy, is very important. They have been generous, they have funded this research, and it's important for us to have their take on the work that has been done. So we're hoping that we can quickly get her unmuted. The reason we can't move on is she also has quite a small window, and so we're hoping that we can use the opportunity to get her to speak now, and then we'll move on to our next speaker. So the sound is on. Great, the greatest news ever. The sound is on, so Madam Sullivan is going to give us her remarks. Right, so you know how these things are with technology and all that, and how we have to move on. So let's move on, but we'll still try and get Madam Sullivan to join us, because we need to hear that address. We'll have Mr. Afelmoni, President of the Ghana Journalists Association, also join us via Zoom. Okay, so we cannot get the feed, but we're working on it. So let's focus on people within the room for now, and we'll go back. But we're working on it, so we'll try and get it through. We'll now take the keynote address, and our speaker is lecturer, teacher, researcher, writer. She specialized in development in sociology, sociology of work, gender studies. She has several papers to her name. She is head of sociology department here at the University of Ghana. Professor Akosua Darkwa will speak to us. Let's put our hands together for her.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to stand on the protocols of my earlier speakers and to say thank you for being here with us, both live and on Zoom or any other platforms. So we are here because there's been a report written and we are to launch it. And it's on the lives of women in the media. So I think, and I'm thinking, how many of these women do I even know of? AJ Akwokusapon, Nana Majimaya Santi, Doreen Nando. Let's see who else I can remember offhand. Okay, there used to be Adwa Edushum, right? Adwa Edu, then we all watched her become Adwa Edushum, or much earlier than that, Beatrice Edu. When I was in secondary school, Professor Odigachepo had a magazine that I used to read. But these are the faces we know and hear of because they are hosting shows, or maybe they are tweeting something, and so we get to hear them. But there are many more of them that we don't get to see and hear. And more importantly, just because we see them doesn't mean that we know what their lives as people in the media are like. And so today it's an important day, I think, because we are talking about a day where we get to find out for the lives of 318 women sampled for this study, what they experience in the world of work. I'm an academic, so I think research is important in and of itself, right? My life as an academic has been focused around research. You start your life as an academic and you write your first report. It takes you 2 years, and you produce a PhD. They finally call you doctor. That day your feet are light, your head is big and swollen, and you think you are the it, right, for that day at least. Then the real world and the real things that you are expected to do hits you, and you begin a career in academia. And we celebrate each achievement with a reward, and each of those achievements is based on how much you are researching, how much you are producing. So you start lecturer, you produce 6, 7, become senior lecturer, you produce another 12 to 15, you become an associate professor, you produce some 15 more, you become a full professor, right? Then you do your fancy inaugural lecture, we all wear the gowns, and we go to the Great Hall. There's a lot of pomp and pageantry, your friends are there, your family members are there, your mates from secondary school are there, right? There are lots of flowers, lots of picture taking. We celebrate doing research, sometimes even win international awards. Remember Nobel Peace Prizes, Nobel Prizes in this and that, right? I don't know if we'll do a Nobel Prize this year, but that's another story. So research in and of itself is a good thing, and you get accolades for it if you're in the world of academia. But research increasingly is recognized for its role in advocacy work as well. So 6 years ago, at the Commission on the Status of Women meetings in New York, a lady called Dr. Leili Maprayan, who's the director of the Wellesley Centers for Women, put together a high-level panel. And the theme was the power of data to change the lives of women and girls. And she's organized that panel every other year since then. In that very first panel, she had the likes of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation representatives. She had the International Center for Research on Women. Actually, the University of Ghana Center for Gender Studies and Advocacy was also represented. And since then, when she's held it, Ghana has been represented at different events. So in the one 2 years ago, Dr. Skokapia, whose work on violence against women I'll talk about a bit today, was there, and so was Abigail Bergerson of the African Women's Development Fund. And at each of these meetings, they are discussing how you can use data, research, to advocate, to change the lives of women and girls for the better. And so what I'd like to do today is to just share a few words and thoughts about how we can use data to change the world for the better for women and girls. So what's data in the first place? What's research in the first place? What kinds are we talking about here? There are primarily two ways you do this. So there's the quantitative research, the numbers game. Then there's the qualitative, the text that we analyze. So everything from, you can analyze pictures, tweets, Facebook posts, poems, musical lyrics, what have you, right? And both of these sets of data, the quantitative and the qualitative, give you a full understanding of what it is that you are researching. So if we use poverty, for example, the quantitative specialist will tell you in Ghana there are 3.6 million people who are poor. They are poor because they live below the poverty line, which is measured at 10 cedis a day. But then the qualitative specialist will tell you, what does it mean to live on 10 cedis a day? One of the really interesting pieces of research I read, up in the mountains, a woman said, to be poor in Ghana means when there's a funeral, and we are discussing how to bury the person, because you don't have any money to bring to the conversation. When you speak, nobody listens. For her, that's what it meant to live on less than 10 cedis a day and not have anything to produce to join in the discussions about how to bury loved ones. And if you know how important that rite of passage is for us, then you can understand what it means to be poor in our context, right? So you need to have both the quantitative and the qualitative. They have to be collected properly. So we are looking for rigorous research. We are looking for research that is both valid and reliable. Valid, did you measure what you said you were measuring? If you are trying to measure emotional intelligence, and you take 10-year-olds and you ask them, if you are asked to go and buy bread, your mom says go and buy bread, you get to the shop and there is no bread, what do? 10-year-olds. One group says you go to the next shop. The next group says you come home. Who's actually showing you that they have the right emotional intelligence for their age? It depends on the context you are talking about. If you have money, you go to the next shop. If you don't have money, you go home. So unless you understand the context, you are not measuring emotional intelligence just by asking that question. Okay? So you need to make sure you are asking the questions you need to ask. You need to make sure you ask it in a manner that when we repeat it, we are going to get the same results. So you need to do it in a reliable manner and show us that. Once you do that, then I will suggest that there are 4 ways in which we can use data to change the lives of women and girls. I'll just speak on 4 very quickly. First is that data allows us to see the world we are talking about. So like my colleague earlier said, it gives you the stark reality of what it is that we are talking about. When you have the numbers in front of you, it's hard to step away from it and act as if it is not real. If we find out today how many of the women are on different beats, if we find out exactly how many are making some amount of money or not, it is no longer something that's fuzzy in our minds. We know for sure what the issues are at this point. And once you know for sure, it's very hard to step away from that reality. So the most important thing data does for us is first, it puts the information right in our faces and makes it very difficult for us to ignore it. The important thing is how you shape that information and share it in ways that lots of people can begin to appreciate it. And that's why I think it's an interesting day, because we are talking about people in the media who are really good at communicating information such as this, right? So you use all kinds of visuals and you make that information accessible to as many people as possible. Increasingly also because of social media, there are everyday data collectors, right? So think about all the different pictures people take or video that gets shown around, right, on WhatsApp platforms and so on. Take this year, we've had the coronavirus, but this is also the year of George Floyd, where we all sat and watched somebody very comfortably, coolly kill somebody. And once that happens and it gets shared, you suddenly see that, wait a minute, there is something here that we have always been talking about, right? But now it's in your face in a manner that's very difficult to neglect and ignore. When you present data in visual forms, such as short animation, short video, short clips, it puts it in our faces in ways that it's difficult for us to ignore if it's written text. Okay? We've had our own People's Lives Matter in this country. Remember last month, same manner. People comfortably watch, while somebody gets beaten to death. And once we have that, it says to us, wait a minute, this isn't the first time in Ghana that somebody has been killed because she was branded a witch. It's not the first time that in our homes, in our schools, in various religious institutions, we have branded people witches. But what that video did for us was to force us now to step back and say, what do we do about this? At that point, all the other studies that have been done before can be brought to the fore, because the data is presented in a way that shows you very starkly what our reality is. Once we have that kind of data, it's hard to step back. It's hard to downplay it. So to have the research is the most important thing. It establishes for us facts, fact that is difficult to ignore. Second, data helps us understand what it is that we need to do. So I'll tell you about some studies done in the early to late 1990s. Dr. Skokapia, Gender Studies and Human Rights Documentation Center, puts together a team, and they do the first large-scale study in this country of violence against women in Ghana. And in that study, they find, for example, that most women think that violence is a private issue. They don't go to any public institutions for redress. They also find that the attitudes that both men and women have towards violence is quite problematic. So once you understand what the issues are like that, then you can begin to draw up mechanisms to address that. So what was done in the case of violence against women was to say, all right, how do we create an institution then that individuals feel more welcome to go and report their cases to? What do we do about our police force so that women now can turn to that for redress? And long process, but a training manual was developed on violence against women. As we speak, that training manual is part of the training that the police force in this country gets when they go to police school. So once we understood, okay, what is the situation on the ground? What is it that is creating this situation? How then can we address it? If we don't have the data, we don't understand what needs to be done, we can't proceed to fix it. Still on that project, the other thing they did about attitudes was to say, all right, let's have a rural response system. Let's develop a community-based model that works on the attitudes of the population, so that if we change attitudes, then the behavior follows as well.
Thus, for live coverage of the release of the report on the status of women in the Ghanaian media. This is organized by the Alliance for Women in Media Africa. This program is currently going on at the University of Ghana, Legon. Thank you for staying with us for the live coverage.